Just hopping on here to talk about this week's astrology. Mercury stationed direct on April 7th, and it's still in Pisces, but there will be a slow momentum of all things related to communication, the mind, how we think, things that have been stalled, things that have been delayed, things that we've been ruminating over or reflecting upon. We should notice a real shift in the energy. However, it's still in the water sign, the intuitive, sensitive, psychic, symbolic sign of Pisces. So until Mercury goes back into Aries, we still will be feeling a lot of that watery energy. And also Venus has been retrograde in Pisces. Venus is very much about beauty, attraction, love, relationship, money, what we value. And Venus is exalted in the sign of Pisces. So Venus is going to station direct this Saturday at the same time that we have a full moon at 23 degrees of Libra. Venus will be stationing direct at 24 degrees of Pisces. Now, I would like to describe a retrograde. It's kind of like an analogy that I recently heard when a boat just suddenly stops and it shifts direction, but that boat is going to take a little time. And so it's almost like a standstill moment. And many of us will feel that shift, but it's going to take maybe a few days, a few weeks. Especially Venus will also start to move back out of Pisces and into Aries again. So we're going to go from all this water, this sensitive, emotional water into the sign of fire sign of Aries. So that should be something that we'll all be feeling. And if you've been feeling stuck, or if you've been feeling worried or anxious, even though Venus has been exalted in the sign of Pisces, it's been aligned with the planet Saturn in Pisces. So Venus in Pisces is a lovely energy. But conjunct, that means together, the planet Saturn. Saturn can be several things on a spectrum. It can be contraction, delays, responsibilities, loneliness, relationship challenges when it's combined with Venus. Or on the flip side, it can be committing to something very creative, working very hard, putting effort into a project or a relationship, or anything that has to do with that area of your individual birth chart, because we're all different, we have our own signature. But Venus-Saturn will have 3 conjunctions by the time this is over, because when it was direct, it conjoined Saturn. When it was retrograde, it conjoined Saturn. And when it goes direct, it conjoins Saturn again. So this has been a very also Saturnian time in a Piscean way. And the only way I can describe that is the way I've been feeling is this somewhat confusing time for myself, and also a time when I've had to kind of step out of my practical mindset and think in a more Piscean way, reflect on Piscean themes, because Mercury's home sign is Gemini and Virgo. Mercury, if you know anything about, or if you study ancient astrology, Mercury rules an air sign and an earth sign. And in water, Mercury's in its fall in Pisces in traditional astrology. So Mercury is not it's not home in the sign of Pisces. However, I have met brilliant artists, photographers, designers with the planet Mercury in the sign of Pisces in their birth charts, because they can think intuitively, creatively, psychically. They can put these images together in a genius way because they have that ability to think symbolically. So there's many gifts with Mercury in Pisces. And the way I want to describe this culmination with this full moon on Saturday, April 12th, in Libra, with Venus stationing direct in Pisces, there's a culmination going on here. Because the last solar eclipse, last October of 2024, was at 10 Libra. There's been a storyline for the last 2 years, 223 through 225, with the Aries Libra eclipses, and the nodes recently shifting into Virgo and Pisces. And this is, I feel, and many other astrologers feel, this is a time of culmination, aha moments, breakthroughs or breakups. It really depends, but this particular full moon on Saturday, we have the Sun conjoin Chiron at 23, roughly 23 degrees. Chiron, I believe, is at 22 Aries. Sun Chiron can be a very sensitive, defensive energy. However, it can also be described as a healing crisis or a healing breakthrough. You'll hear Chiron described as the wounded healer, or the gift of the shaman, the shamanic healer who's been through many hardships and then has learned and evolved and shares their gifts with others. Individually, someone who is born with their Chiron and Aries often has the challenge of living up to their own unique self and their individuality and their ability to assert themselves in a way that they feel confident, self-assured, and it takes time. So it's like an onion being peeled, or it's like a spiralic journey. Every time there is maybe a transit or an eclipse or something significant to our natal Chiron, or transiting Chiron to our natal planets, there could be some kind of healing crisis. There could be some kind of healing going on at the same time. So I did want to mention that. But this could be a real interesting week going into next week. It'd be interesting to hear anybody's feedback on if they've experienced any breakthroughs or breakups or aha moments, because the storyline will continue because we're not out of the retrograde shadow periods, and basically that means the planets get back to the original degrees where they stationed. And if we think about it, we had a solar eclipse at 11 degrees of Aries in October 2024. We had Mercury stationed retrograde a couple of weeks ago at 10 degrees of Aries. We had a solar eclipse at 9 degrees of Aries. And of course, Venus retrograde in Aries. So these are all sensitive points. And until Venus and Mercury get back to that particular degree in Aries, the storyline continues. It's not quite over yet. And I wish everyone a great week, and go forth and enjoy the direct motion of Mercury and the upcoming Venus.